Hey, greetings, tournament anglers. I'm Rick Mohan. I'm here with Eric. Eric, say hello.
Hi, Eric Zietz.
So, guys, tournament time is almost upon us, and we wanted to take this opportunity to do our rules meeting. And of course, that's a little bit different format, but we're going to have to do that. But we've had a long tradition, our club, of remembering and recognizing some of our old friends and tournament competitors who are no longer with us. And we do this, at our rules meeting. So I like to build on that tradition, and I'm going to start with just a short invocation. So, gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you have provided us. We thank you for your amazing creation and the opportunity to pursue our fishing passions. We also want to thank you for the opportunity to conduct the 2020 Pelican Spring Classic Walleye Tournament in light of the many public health challenges that we face. We ask for your continued protection of all of the anglers and event staff. Please keep us safe as we travel and are out on the water. I take this time and a moment of silence for all of us to remember our old tournament friends and anglers whom you have called home to be with you. A moment of silence, please. Amen. So, guys, we are, just knocking on the door of the tournament, and I wanted to take an opportunity to make some general comments here, and we'll go through some of the schedule, some of the flight information, and some things like that. But so let's start off with a couple of things. So anglers must follow all COVID-19 executive order guidelines with regard to social distancing and no large groups, etc. I think they've been fairly well publicized, and you should know what they are. But we're going to want to be particularly careful around the boat ramps in that we don't linger. We want to be efficient. Launching and getting out of the water, that always happens pretty quickly. But loading, we want to guard against people just kind of hanging around and kind of reviewing the day and that social piece. That's part of the stuff that they don't want us to do. So please keep that in mind. We want to set an example for how best to do these tournaments and still live up to the public health guidelines. So also then Coast Guard approved flotation devices must be worn when your boat is under power. And what we mean by that is when it's on plane. We want you to check for AIS when launching and loading your boats. No alcohol is allowed in your boat during our tournament hours. That's nothing new. Live or artificial bait is permitted. We've talked about it before that if you're launching, please, before you're inspected, we will be conducting those inspections at the ramp. Our staff will, and you might encounter county AIS inspectors, and they may be asking you to do other things. Please be nice to them. They're nice folks. Please be respectful. But it's important that you roll up there with a dry boat. Guys, don't have live wells full. So that's why we ask you not to have your bait in there yet until it's been inspected. Once that occurs, you can. We had a question earlier today about there are a few anglers that actually live on the lake and they might come over on the water. And in that instance, it's appropriate for you to have your bait in the boat because your boat is on the lake. But you would have to come over to the Zorbas or the U-Motors dock to be inspected if you don't have an inspection at the landing. Anglers must have a valid Minnesota fishing license. That's kind of an obvious one. And obviously, we want all the anglers must follow Minnesota fishing regulations. Our tournament does have a 20-yard spacing between and among competitors' boats. You're not supposed to be closer than that. And at no time may a competitor come along side another competitor boat during tournament hours. Tournament patrol boats, the sheriff patrol boats, any DNR boats, they certainly are permitted to come up alongside a competitor boat and do whatever the official business they need to conduct. Cell phones or radio use among competitors is not permitted. So we have allowed anglers to bring along cell phones for emergency use, but we do reserve the right to inspect cell phone call logs of competitors while they're on the water. So, it could happen. We usually don't check everybody, but we might come up and check a couple of boats. Anglers are permitted to call the tournament directors with questions or requests for assistance. That's fine. Again, no fish are permitted in your live wells or in your boat. We would ask that you inform the tournament staff. If you come across a floater, please let us know, and we'll send out a boat to retrieve it. We obviously don't want a dead fish floating around. So we've mentioned before, and we're going to get more into the scoring, but we do have an official ruler, and it's a judge branded ruler. That's the only official ruler for this catch, record, release tournament. Now, the club actually has one that we've branded with our logo that we have available and will sell if you need one of those. But if you have one already, and if you have a brand that you sourced from Lund or from someone else, that's fine. If it's a judge ruler, it's good. The other thing then is you must have a camera that accepts an SD card. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about that when we review what's in the packet. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to go over a few more things.
So yeah, Rick said inspections. Inspections this year, we're going to start boat inspections at 6 o'clock each morning at both the ramps on the west and east side of the lake. So you'll find tournament staff there. We'll be wearing our neon yellow greenish vests. So make sure you find us after your boat inspection. We will give you a ribbon that goes on your boat. The DNR requires the live wells to be empty, like Rick mentioned earlier, before launching. So make sure they're empty before once we get our ribbon on and you pull up close to launch. That's when you can put your bait into your boat. Flight times. So we're launching at 7 o'clock this year, and we're going to do a staggered release. So basically, we're going to go single file. We'll start with boat 1 and go down, and then we'll reverse the order on day 2. But so once you get your boat in the water after 6, so between 6 and 7 o'clock, after you've been inspected, we ask that you drive over to the U-Motors dock, which is across the road from Zorbas. That's where you'll see Rick or myself handing out your scorecard packets. So you want to pick up those packets. It's going to have your boat number and all the other information that Rick's going to share here shortly. So again, we're going to release boats at 7 o'clock. Boat team number 1, when they get released, they can start fishing. So fishing starts at 7 a.m. when we start to trickle you released. Return, you can fish all the way up until return. You have to be off plane by the same dock, the U-Motors dock across from Zorbas, off plane by 3 o'clock both days. So 7 to 3 are the tournament hours. It's going to be a little congested over there with the boats that we got coming in. I think we'll be able to get through it fine as long as everybody just stays patient. That's why we say you just got to be off plane. If we can see you within eyesight, you're not going to get penalized because you're sitting out a couple hundred yards. Just make sure you're off plane, and we'll get you accounted for. And then like Rick said earlier, with respect to COVID, there's going to be a lot of eyes on tournaments, certainly, as there's not a lot of them going on. So please load your boat as efficiently as you can, and just keep moving. We don't want a lot of socializing in the ramp parking lot. So keep the flow going. All boats start and finish the day, like I said, at that U-Motors dock facility next to Zorbas. And then we also have remote parking at the U-Motors parking area, which is just west of Zorbas. So maybe we would ask that, a few of you, if you can, and it actually works out pretty well last year. There was some teams that would launch the boat at either ramp and drive the truck around over to U-Motors, and then the boat captain would just drive over to that dock. Less congested than the ramps. Parking was easy over there. So if that's something that you can do, we certainly ask that you do that. It'll help keep the ramp area less congested as well.
And we're supposed to leave a number of slots open by permit.
By permit, correct. So if you can, please take advantage of that and do what you can to help us out on that one. So let's go back over to Rick to review the info packet that we've got for you guys.
So I'm grabbing my prop here. When you come over to the Motors dock, we'll have a roster. We'll know, who's assigned what team number. So, but we will probably ask you, your name so we can figure out the number. We will send those rosters along to the boat inspection. So if you're interested and want to know what your team number will be, you could ask the guys there and they could tell you, but you won't have an official number or card until you come over to the U-Motors dock. And so, and a big change, from years past is we've always had, the little wooden placards that stay in the boat. But, since we're not doing an awards ceremony in person, there's no way to gather all that stuff up. So we will provide you with an envelope, one for each day. Each day you'll get one. And you'll see the number. And that's the number that your team will be. I just happened to pick 50 out of the box here. And then this number, I made it big so that you can share or show it to the other boats that are going to be floating around in the general area as you're getting yourself organized to be released in the morning. And as Eric said, day one, we'll start with one and we'll go through whatever the end is. And then the next day we'll start at the end and reverse it and go back to one. But this is how you can communicate, with the other boat people. So what's in the boat is a sheet that's going to look like this, and it's going to have essentially some of the same information that we just went over about flights and some of the expectations. But it also has Eric's phone number, cell phone number, and mine, so that if you need to reach out to us, during the tournament hours or some other time, you can. And so the numbers are published there. Also then is the number for U-Motors, which has graciously, allowed us to use their dock. But they also shared with Eric that, they have staff and they would have people available if there were any mechanical or boat-related issues that come up, that they would be more than happy to try to assist you if hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does. So that's a sheet that'll be in there every day. There'll also then be a Ziploc bag that I didn't show you, but it's going to contain an SD card. And this is the SD card that I wanted you to see. You need to have a camera that'll accept this size of SD card. And I realize this technology's kind of moved on and most people are using cell phones for their cameras, but I think they're still around. And certainly if you're using, an SLR type camera, bigger ones, they take these. But so we want you to take that. And so when you also, we'll cover this one in scoring, but we want you to get, when you get this right away, put it in your camera and take a picture of maybe your team number, take a picture of the dock, take a picture of your teammate to make sure that the card's going to work in your camera. And if there is a snag, something doesn't work, just come back up to the dock. We'll have other cards that we can swap you out with. So that's going to be in a card. There'll be a pen, and then there'll be a card. This one happens to, it was upside down. There'll be a card like this for each day. And this is where you're going to mark down your fish. And we're going to talk more about scoring here in a minute, but this is where you do that. And, you can mark, well, the card would hold up to 24, and there's a back if you would need it. But that's the neat thing about a catch cord release is you can keep catching fish and you mark them down and you release them. So that's in there. And then there will also be a ribbon. And this is a ribbon that you're going to tie around your judge ruler, and we want it to be visible in your photo. And so obviously, this ribbon, the color will change on a given day. And just so you know, yellow is not going to be one of the colors. So that's, I think, primarily what's in the info packet. Yeah, I think that covers that piece of it. We do have some scoring things, and I think Eric and we want to make just a couple of general comments, but then we're going to reference a video that our prior tournament director recorded here a few years back. Barry Shenard, many of you know him, but Barry just does a really excellent job of describing how we want to do it. And again, many of you guys have done this before, so it's probably not new to you. But so what we would ask you to do is when you're taking pictures is, well, I would encourage you to take your picture and mark your card in that same moment or moments. There have been situations where people would just take the pictures and want to keep fishing and then try to fill out the card after the fact. And you can do it that way, but there's also a potential for mistakes to occur. And, you know, we don't want that to happen, because if it's a mistake and it's not written down right, we just DQ the fish. And, you know, we don't want to do that. So it works much, much cleaner for you guys, and you have a much higher chance of having a really good experience then, is if you just take the moment and, you know, once you take the picture and call out what the length is, do that. And then, you know, again, the general rules about how we do this is that we don't record any fish under 15 inches. So the other part is that when we are measuring the fish, we want the head of the fish to be bumped up against the board, you know, the bump end. And we want, you can pinch the tail. But we want you to be able to take a photograph that includes the entire fish, you know, and the ribbon's kind of in the mix, so we know it's the right, validate the day. And it's good to try to cast a shadow over it if you can, or if it's a you know, an overcast day, not a big deal. But there have been times when if there's a sun flare on the ruler itself, it gets to be a challenge to read. We've always been able to sort it out, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So if you can orient yourself for the boat where you're not in the real direct sunlight, that's helpful. But at the end of the day, we understand you want to fish. So I mean, just do the best you can. We'll make it work. We read these things on a computer, and we can really dial in. We can zoom in and see an amazing amount of detail, and we've always been able to figure out a mark, but sometimes it's taken a bit. Orient the fish the same way, please. You can choose, you know, whether the head of the fish is to your left and the belly's at you, or if you do it the other way, that's fine, but do it the same way every time. So then we know that we're looking at the same fish.
Yeah.
Take a hero shot between your fish. Take a shot of your partner holding the fish, a gag shot. I mean, we've seen a bunch of funny ones that are just very, very funny. But that way we can that's the way we know you're trying to identify a different fish. So that's kind of the high level stuff. Eric, I don't know if there's anything you want to throw out, but Barry's going to go through a lot of this in a video that you'll see.
Yeah, he's going to do a pretty good detail. I would just mention too here before you get into the video, guys, please go online. You can read the full rules that we have posted on our website for this tournament. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to Rick or I. Yep, one page. And then also, you know, after you watch the video, if there are any questions on scoring or recording fish, feel free to reach out to either one of us, because we can help you with that, with any questions you might have regarding those. So especially if it's your first time. So don't be afraid to reach out to either one of us with either of those details.
Well, with that, we were going to transition then to a short video prepared by our dear friend Barry that will go through the intricacies and the best management practices for catch, record, release.
I'm going to jump all the way up to what our section 6, which is the scoring portion of it, and talk a little bit about the catch, photo, release portion. I'm going to share maybe some experiences I had at Ottertail that I think are valuable as well. You also have your boat number board. In the morning when you get in the water, you'll hold up your boat number board, and at the time probably of boat inspection, you'll let us know what your boat number is. We'll be giving you a packet like this. And inside that packet, this yellow card is your official scorecard. Okay? You can write every fish, the length of each fish that you catch on that scorecard. And at the end of the day, you're going to take the 6 fish that you want to submit for scoring and mark an X next to them, and then sign that official scorecard and turn it in. Okay, so you have to indicate which 6 fish. You could have 20 fish on that card, but which 6 fish that you want to submit for us to be able to record the score on. Okay, when you catch a fish, take in the picture process. I think it was real well understood when I said when you have the fish on the ruler, and you're taking a picture of the fish on the ruler, I can zoom in. I mean, with the computer equipment, much better than you guys can with your camera equipment, okay? So I'm gonna be able to get a better look at it than what you can. I want you to orient the fish the same way on every picture. And my suggestion is head on the left and belly towards you, and then do all of the fish the same way. What I'm getting to there is I need to see the same side of every fish. I can't be having measurements of the left side of one fish and the right side of another fish. And that's because when it gets to the detail, if I got fish of identical or very close measurements, I am looking at the scale patterns. Every fish is unique in the scale patterns that they have, and I can zoom in to that level and make sure that that's not a duplicate, counted fish. That's not the same fish that you had counted earlier. So I'll be doing that on my end. What I need from you is I need every fish that you measure on that ruler has to be showing the same side of the fish. And if I just make it easy for you, I'll say head on the left and belly towards you, and then you've accomplished that, okay? Now if you want to put head on the right and belly towards you, just do every fish that way, okay? So be diligent. Now when it comes to taking pictures of the fish on the ruler, take as many as you need. If you have to take 10 pictures to get to the point that you feel that you've got a good picture, just keep on taking pictures. And when you're satisfied that you have at least one good picture in a series of pictures on that ruler, then you take what we call a hero shot. Have your partner hold the fish up before releasing, and then that is essentially the break in between that fish and the next fish. So when I see that hero shot, I hear somebody see the photo of a person holding the fish, I know the pictures that follow that now are the next fish that you've caught, okay? One of the things that happened at Ottertail several times, 6 or 7 times. Guys called up and says, as soon as we got a good measurement, my partner says, okay, got it. And I took the fish and I threw it overboard and we forgot to take the hero shot, okay? It's not a big deal. Just take a picture of your partner. I mean, I want the picture of the fish to tell you the truth, but if you happen to do that by mistake, just take the picture of your partner. It's still the break in between the end of the photos of that fish and the next fish that you're going to be submitting for measurement. So that's not a DQ situation if you forget to take that hero shot, but I do want a break in there. So take a picture of your partner or something like that if you happen to make that whoops. And that happened a half a dozen times. Something else I'll talk about is taking measurements. And like I said, I can zoom in and I can see them real well. There were 3 or 4 pictures in Ottertail, and I looked on the card, Mr. Longtime here, and he was one of them. He had the big fish of the tournament, 27-inch fish that they submitted, and I looked at that picture, and he had 3 pictures of it, and 2 of the pictures on it, that fish, he could have counted it 27 1/4. Well, by that, what I'm saying is when you're measuring fish, the measurement that you're going to record is if the fish touches the 16-inch line, then the length of fish that you record is the next quarter up, 16 1/4. So whatever line that fish touches, the length of fish that you write down, you always round up to the next quarter, okay? It can be over it by 1/8 of an inch. If it just barely touches, you can round up to the next quarter. But like Mr. Longtime, that 27-inch fish just barely touched that 27-inch line, and he made the decision and says, you know what? I don't know if that picture is going to show that fish touched the 27-inch line or not, but I know for sure that it touched the 26 3/4. I'm going to record it, okay, as a 27-inch fish, which means it only had touched 26 3/4, and then I know for sure it's not going to be 0. And I'm fine with that. I'm going to give up a 1/4 inch because it was so damn close that I don't want to risk losing the measurement in that fish. And that's what would happen. If we can't verify in your photo that fish is that long, what will happen is I'll count 1 towards your limit and a 0 on your weight. It won't DQ you for the tournament. It'll count 1 for the limit and 0 is the weight. Okay, the minimum length for a fish in this tournament is 15. Now, so that means, guys, you have to be at least 15 inches. You have to touch that 15-inch line with a fish. So what's the minimum length that'll be on any card that I see? 15 1/4. Okay? So that should be the minimum length that I see written on a card because every photo will have it at least touching the 15-inch line. I don't think you'll have a problem with that. There's going to be some nice sized fish. The other thing that you see in here is there's a ribbon, just like the ribbon we tie in the front of your bow eye, that orange ribbon in there. What happens is you don't know the color I'm going to give you until tomorrow morning, just like when we do boat inspections. You don't know what color ribbon we're going to put on your boat to do that. You're not going to know what color that ribbon and then those polka dots in there as well. I didn't prep a ruler.
Not orange. Right?
Well, maybe it'll be orange. I don't know. I just prepped the sample envelope to be able to show you. It's not going to be orange. But what I'm going to have you do, it just adds a little bit more validity that the pictures I'm going to be looking at came from our fishing tomorrow in the water, is you take those orange dots, put them on the ruler, spread them out a little bit, try to put them, and if you need to cut them and make them a little bit smaller so they don't cover your inch lines and things like that, feel free to do that, and tie that ribbon onto your ruler. In every picture, I want to see at least a portion of any one of those dots or that ribbon. And you know what? You could probably use a ribbon and that's it. What happened at Otter Tail, just as an FYI too, is some of the rulers were wet when they put the dots on, and when they put that first fish on, the dots just started sliding right off. But you still had that ribbon, and if I could at least see a portion of that ribbon in every picture, you're fine. I just want to see a portion of any one of those in each picture of your fish on the ruler, and that will give a little bit additional assurance that the photo was taken from the date of the tournament. So. There's also going to be a pen in there for a scorecard. Hopefully it works for you. I'm not going to guarantee it'll continue to work. If you have problems like that, or you have problems with your camera, going back into the packet that you got tonight, you've got the phone numbers for myself and Tammy Stillwell. Give us a call. If you carry a spare camera, it's not a bad idea yourselves. You know, if you got a couple of them. If you've got a camera that doesn't use the SD cards that we gave you, I was more concerned with that before Otter Tail. Out of the group that we had at Otter Tail, we had one guy that his camera wouldn't accept that standard size SD card, but he just swapped it out. So certainly might be a good idea to just make sure it fits in your camera. But if you have a problem with that in the morning, just let us know. I thought a lot of people are going to submit their own SD cards and their own photo cards for us to clean off. I don't want to clean off cards all night when we get done with the rules meeting, which is why I said we're going to buy some cards and just supply them. And I'm actually very pleased that everybody's saying, hey, we're just going to use your cards. And then I don't have to worry about trying to return them to you after the tournament and things of that nature. But looks like that's pretty widely and universally working for you guys, or it certainly did at Otter Tail. If it doesn't work for you in this tournament, get in touch with me. We'll work something out. Okay? We'll have a way to be able to utilize your SD card if you want to use yours.
Well, folks, again, I hope you enjoyed that video and how to do the catch, record, release. You know, at this point, we're just excited about being able to move forward. And as Eric mentioned, you know, please reach out if you have any questions. But at this point, I just wanted to mention that once the tournament concludes on Saturday, you guys will be turning in your cards at the dock. Eric and I will be, you know, we're not able to have an in-person awards meeting. So what we will do is go back and validate all of the pictures and put together the results, and our intention will be to publish an online awards video on Sunday morning. We're shooting for 10 o'clock, barring any technical issues. We'll try to get that out, you know, in a very quick order. And then, of course, for the people that are successful in, you know, earning a check, we will send them in the mail. I will point out that typically first and second will exceed the minimum reporting requirements of the Internal Revenue Service. So what we will do in that instance is I will be sending you a 1099 or a W-9 form that you get to fill out and return back to me, and then I'll send you a check. That's how this is going to have to work. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. So I'll throw it back to you, Eric.
Yeah, I guess I would thank everybody for watching. One thing we do ask, whether this is Facebook or YouTube, you know, we've reached out and asked you guys to let us know, at least one team member, let us know that you watched it. Whether you like it on Facebook, send me a text or send Rick a text with your name. That's all we need, or an email, whatever's easier. But we just need to know that everybody, at least one team member, has watched this. So please take that time at the end of this and let us know.
Take care, guys. See you on Friday.